Hi guys, I'd like to welcome Sam back for another episode of Conscious Conversations, and hopefully you've seen the video before, which is around the hero. This is kind of a follow-on from that, so I talked about the hero dynamic, how that plays out in our relationships, and I kind of talked about how it was coming from my point of view, but I thought it would be really cool to talk about the dynamic with my partner, how it played out for both of us, and also I'd like to add 5 steps to start healing from this dynamic, and what we can do to step back into our power and start healing the wound which was created. Yeah. So Sam, when we were talking originally about the dynamic, and we were talking about overgiving, I'd like you to, can you explain how that what kind of played out for you, and how did that work for you?
This is a dynamic that we've experienced between us, but also as a psychotherapist is a dynamic that plays out quite commonly in people's relationships. So it could be the other way around. It could be the woman in the relationship that is overgiving, but the essential dynamics are still the same. So we're going to talk about it in terms of what was going on between us for that point of reference. But yeah, just bear in mind that it can be, either way. So getting into a relationship, at the beginning of our relationship, we've been together 7 or 8 years now, I think. But this is kind of what happened and how it played out. I could feel that I was slightly anxious, and I could, I was just 40. I know I look incredibly young, but I was just 40. I was feeling like really run down, tired, and then I met this amazing woman, and and it kind of felt like, I'm going to mess this up, I'm going to do something wrong. So I tried to prove to her that, I was this amazing super dude. And I literally, started fixing stuff in the house, started fixing stuff in the garden, was cooking, was literally trying to meet all of her needs because I felt like I wasn't good enough. For me, it was great because I'd never had anyone in my life that would show up for me in that way and do these things. So I was kind of like, at last, someone that really is showing that they cared. And I would let Dan know how much I appreciated that and how I'd never had that. So in the beginning, it felt like really good. And we were talking about, where the problems start is where that kind of recognition wears off a bit, when you've been with each other a little while, maybe that honeymoon period has worn off, start to feel a little bit more comfortable. And for me, I kind of relaxed into that. It's like, well, if he wants to do everything for me, then that's great, and I can sort of sit back and relax and feel safe and secure in that. But in doing so, that kind of recognition fades a bit. And then that's where you get the activation of these old wounds that come up. So that's what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah, so when it faded, I just kind of felt like I'd done something wrong, so I recognised I was still doing everything, but the recognition wasn't there. And because of the dynamic and the origins of the dynamic, it is naturally designed to bring stuff up. So you can either decide that you're going to start working through your stuff, or you will split up. We split up for a couple of months.
Yeah, this dynamic was massive in our relationship, and it culminated to a point where actually we did split up, and then within that time had a bit of a recalibration and rethink. So we wanted to just bring to you, because it is a common dynamic, how we did that, and try and condense it so that if anyone recognises this dynamic playing out, then there's going to be an easier way to do it than going through the whole years process.
Well, years and years.
Years and years, yeah.
Yeah, it takes ages, because we were kind of fumbling in the dark. We didn't know what was going on. It was only when we started to take ownership of our own emotions that we could actually work out what was going on. But there wasn't enough stuff out there that like directly hit it on the head, you know, and said, yeah, this is what's happening. Like, you've both been triggered, and you're not communicating with your adult selves. It's your wounded child parts that are communicating. And then, yeah, we both. I mean, we're pretty good. We've just been massively triggered over Christmas now, and we've been working through it. And I can merge right in with my trigger. So I'm more fixed than Sam is. Sam's sort of more mutable and can observe from a distance, but I fall right into it. So it can be really, really tough, because you might recognise it as just feeling real confused and dizzy and anxious.
Yeah, it's going to have various presentations, you know, very physical presentations as well.
Yeah. But I mean, I've written down 5 steps of what we can do when this happens. But I mean, Sam, you're a counsellor. Do you want to explain why this happens and what activates it in the first place?
Okay, so it's what we've come to think of as an unlovable self-wound. So, you know, there is a healthy way that you meet each other's needs in relationships, but there's also these unmet needs that play out within the context of the relationship, and that's what we're talking about has happened here. So it's always sort of looking to another person to meet your needs because they didn't get met in childhood. And when they don't get met in childhood properly or adequately, it causes an emotional wound. So what that can look like is, and how that can be set up is maybe you had like a critical parent, or a parent that didn't accept you for who you are, thought you should have been living a different life or acting a different way than what you did. Or it could have been more severe than that. They could have hit you, they could have abused you. You know, there's a spectrum of emotional injuries that can happen. So it creates this wound inside ourselves, and we can overcompensate for them in our lives. You know, we can try to get that need met in an unhealthy way without even being really very aware of what that is.
It's not just getting a need met though. I think growing up, our parents tried to get their needs met through their children. I don't know. I've looked at this in some ways with my parenting as well, and recognised when I've done that. But I think when a parent tries to get, sorry about the dog barking, when a parent tries to get their needs met through a child, then it creates these expectations on massive, heavy expectations on a child where they feel like they're expected to meet their parents' needs, which they cannot do, which then just makes you feel like, yeah, you've got this role that you're never going to be able to complete, you're never going to be able to fit into. So it just makes you feel completely unlovable, and that turns into a core solid belief internally.
Yeah, and then we carry that with us into other relationships, and that gets then triggered in the relationship, because ultimately, you know, we are geared towards healing. So actually these situations happen to put us in touch with this pain so that we can resolve it and not have this repeated dynamic or issue coming up in our lives. So in the wider context of things, it is actually a bit of a gift when you're triggered, and I think one of the best things that we can do is become trigger ninjas and start to get really good at this stuff, because you know, we live in a wounded world. We're going to have wounds that are activated, and we just need to get good at being able to integrate them and heal them. So that's sort of part of what we wanted to bring.
So 7 years down the line, or 8 years down the line, is it 7 or 8 years?
8 years, I think.
And we are becoming trigger ninjas. So But I mean, it's okay. It doesn't matter where you are or where you're starting. All you need to do is to learn to get the skills to recognise when you've been triggered, and then what we're going to talk about in a second is how you deal with it, and then that becomes, it changes your neurological pathways, because at the moment when you get triggered, you could just be totally externalising and blaming the rest of the world, or you might be having a really abusive inner dialogue where you're putting yourself down and putting all these expectations on yourself which aren't actually yours.
Yeah, exactly. And you just mentioned something that's worth bringing up in this video as well. You know, this dynamic can get bigger within the relationship, because you're both looking at each other and thinking about what the other person could be doing differently. You know, and if this person stopped doing what they're doing, then you'd feel better. So you can get into externalizing that and blaming each other. If you need to change so I can feel better, when actually that's not the case. We need to hold responsibility for our own wounding and actually take steps to resolve it, and only then will that dynamic kind of improve.
If you think about what Sam was just saying as well, about how we're trying to get the other person to change, like, that is exactly what our parents were doing to us when we were growing up, and that's exactly what created the wound in the first place. So when we're trying to change that person, all we're going to be doing is feeding in to that perfectly designed pattern to make them feel like whatever they do isn't good enough. So one thing you have to really take, important thing to do, is to take ownership of your emotions, but also to recognise that they are totally natural and you need to be authentic to yourself. Like, that is the most important thing. And I did write 5 notes down, because it's such a big subject. we could
try
just
and stay on course.
Yeah, so number 1, we need to take responsibility for our emotions. So what does that mean, Sam?
So that's a lead on from, isn't it, not externalising. So I mean, these arguments can blow up when these pain bodies or these painful wounds from the past get activated. So it's like, in that moment, it's noticing, okay, I've been triggered into some painful emotion here. What is this reminding me of?
And also, it's important, because I know a lot of people out there think that also that there's this belief in the spiritual community that you don't need anybody and you can meet all your own needs. We're not designed to be alone. We are designed to be in relationships and to form packs. You know, it's what we're designed to do. So just remember that we do have needs, even as adults, that need meeting from somebody else that we want to have a relationship with, and that's a totally normal thing as well. That dog probably needs something, that's why he's barking.
But ironically, the healthy meeting of needs can only happen in a relationship when you've resolved your own pain related to not having your needs met. So it's like you do the inner work yourself, and then when that is healed, you then experience, a natural of meeting each other's needs within the relationship, and it's not coming from a place of hidden expectations.
And when we say heal the wounds, like, all you've got to do is just start on that journey, because once you start on that journey, and you do have these big internal shifts and changes, you will see an external reflection in your relationships, whether it's with your partner, with your kids, with your parents. You will start to see that as you heal and change the relationship with yourself, your external relationships will change. They could fall away if they weren't healthy, and they're not meant to be. But the relationships which you do keep will become a lot more amazing because people will be accepting you for who you really are, because you are a beautiful person. And yeah, we've just got to start realising how amazing we really are. So number 1 is we need to take responsibility for our emotions and not externalise them by blaming them
transferring our shame onto our partners because we feel like we can't own it.
And you may need different things to sort of be able to do that, mightn't you? You know, that might, if that wound has become activated because of an argument, it's kind of thinking about what you kind of need, isn't it, to give yourself a bit of space or to work through that in a safe way.
Yeah, well, number 2 that I've put down is actually anchoring. So, grounding yourself, recognising, whoa, hang on a minute, I've just been triggered, shit.
So it might help if, like, what do you need if that happens between us? How you?
When I'm at the beginning of our relationship, I'll never forget it, I'd go into complete anxious attachment and I just need to be with that person and sort it out right there and then, which had the opposite effect on you, so it didn't work.
Yeah, because I needed space to be able to get my head clear, so it could, you know, at times in the beginning when that was happening, it made it kind of worse, didn't it?
It did. I think in a relationship, if you're in a relationship and this is happening, you need, to really work with it, it really helps if you've got a conscious partner, and I could just say, look, I'm feeling really insecure, I'm feeling really anxious at the moment, I'm really struggling, I just need to know that you're going to be there and not recreate this, you know. I mean, nobody's got the answers to everything, but just being able to ask each other questions and support each other is really, really important in your growth to healing. And if your partner can't support your growth, then I think, it's time to reevaluate if you're in the right relationship as well. That's quite important. But like anchoring,
so what helps you to get perspective?
Well, if I create a safe place for myself, that was what originally. I mean, I can quite easily go to a safe place now. I mean, I still struggle with it, but
what do you mean physically a safe place?
No, somewhere in my mind, somewhere I can go away, and I can just tell that part that's been activated. When I say part, it's like I do. I've followed Richard Schwartz for quite a while, and I've read some of his books. So we recognise these emotions or these wounds as parts within ourselves, and so I create a safe place for that part, just to show it that there's not an attack, there's no danger, it's not going to be abandoned, and more importantly of everything, that I am present with it and I'm not going anywhere. So just to ground, it even actually helps to take my shoes off, not in this cold weather, but just take my shoes off and put my feet on the ground and maybe just meditate and just be present with that part, and keep reassuring it it's okay, there's no danger,
And that's quite important, because it's like almost like the adult part of you taking ownership for that part and meeting that part's needs in that moment, and that was what was lacking. So in the original incident, so that's quite important, that you can be that reassurance for that part of yourself, you know, just make it, you know, even if you're not used to doing that, even at the start, just saying, it's okay, everything's going to be all right, I'm here, you know, this is all right.
Just recognising there's no immediate danger.
Yeah, and that's very soothing to the brain as well, because the brain can go into a state of trauma or fight or flight or shutdown or whatever. So if you're kind of communicating words of safety and reassurance, it kind of calms the whole system down. So it's, you know, it's proven in neuroscience as well, so it is actually a really good thing to do.
Also, I do the rain meditation. I've mentioned it in the previous video, and in my previous video, The Hero, there's even a link in the descriptions to Tara Bach's rain meditation. That helps. And also, I'd just like to say, it did take me a while before I could start grounding when I had been triggered. Like Sam was just saying, it can feel like life and death, and it literally can. So, like, we know how powerful your triggers can be, okay? But you can work with it, guys, and and life will...
Yeah, and we're we're not doing it from a place of like, oh, you know, we completely nailed this, we don't get triggered anymore. We definitely get triggered.
Yeah.
But like not as often and for not as long, and we're quite clear with the steps now, aren't we? That you know, we're getting better at being the trigger ninjas than we are.
Yeah, and also, like, in the last 8 years that we've been doing this work, Sam's a counsellor, psychotherapist, as I've mentioned a million times in other videos, but like by doing this work, your whole life changes, not just your relationship. More importantly than your relationship with your partner, your relationship with yourself changes, and you start to realise as well, like, that the world isn't a really insecure, like, dangerous place, and we can find comfort, security and love, and we can create what we want. You know, we are manifestors, but to do that we have to dive into the subconscious programming, all the stuff that's going on in the background.
Yeah, all the sticky stuff and the sticky emotions that we've been programmed to avoid most of our lives, and just get good at being with that is ultimately what it's about, isn't it?
Yeah. Right, so without going off track, number 1, we need to take responsibility for our emotions. Number 2, anchor. So anchoring really helps, and grounding. Number 3, I've put being present with your emotions. What would being present with your emotions mean to you?
So, like, sort of being compassionate with yourself, accepting of yourself, understanding where this has come from, and this is a deep wound. It might have played a theme throughout all of your life and all of your relationships
But just,
in a different way.
I mean, I find being present, literally when that thing has come up and I've got all that fear and anxiety, just immerging myself into that fear and anxiety.
Yeah, and that can take a bit of practice, because I think a lot of us have got these defences against feelings. So you might want to distract, you might want to go and have a drink, you might want to just, you know, throw it under the carpet and stamp on it and forget about it, or try and make yourself feel better when you don't. So it's not about that, it's just about like, okay, I'm feeling a lot of pain around this, I'm feeling really, really sad, and also noticing what that's like in your body, because it's a very I don't know if you've noticed, but emotions, when you pay attention to them, are very physical in the body. You know, you might feel it in your heart, you might feel it in your stomach might be gurgling.
Shame often moves around as well, doesn't it?
And it can help to, you know, just put your hands on compassionately on where you're feeling it, just to be like, it's okay, you know, just so you can feel your own presence with it. Simple techniques like that, but yeah, ultimately it's trying to make yourself as okay as you can be with feeling what you're feeling, because emotions are like designed to be in motion. If they're given the right conditions, then they will just move on. Like it's like a wave. It kind of builds, it reaches a peak, and then it subsides, and then it's on its way. But if you're trying to suppress it or detach from it or avoid it, then it can't do what it naturally does. So having those right conditions around it are a must. Oh, we've got all the animals. We've got the cat now as well.
Hello. Yeah, so being present with your emotions is really important. If you're like me and you're anxiously attached, well, I have been in this relationship, I've been avoidant in other relationships, but when you're anxious, also I've got ADHD, so being able to sit and be present with my emotions, I think Gabor really, he's written a book called Scattered Minds, which is amazing, and basically if you have got ADHD, your mind constantly jumps from one thing to another.
Speaking of which, we're skipping on to a different video.
Yeah, but no, I'm just saying, so being present with your emotions is different for everybody, but if you need help with that, leave some messages in the comments, and I can do videos specifically for you, or you can contact me directly, and I can help you with what you're going through. So anyway, so we've done 1, 2, 3, and now let's look at 4. So number 4, becoming curious of what's going on inside of you. Gabor Mate calls this compassionate inquiry.
Yeah, so this is where you're kind of just understanding where this has come from, validating where it's come from, and being, you know, like really understanding with yourself as you would with a friend if you know they were in trouble, you know, giving yourself support and, you know, just getting curious about where it's come from and giving yourself the right conditions.
Also getting curious about it, like when you're present with that emotion and asking questions. Where did it originate from? Is there more than one feeling? Where can I feel it in my body? Where do I think this originated from? I think I've already said that.
Yeah.
But like just asking questions and searching within yourself. But it's the way you do it, like Gabor Mate calls it compassionate inquiry. So be fully accepting and understanding, like don't think that you're feeling like you are because there's something wrong with you or it's a stupid reaction. It's not. I guarantee you 100% the way you are feeling and what you're going through is a completely natural reaction to the abuse that you've received, and it might not have come across as being like really abusive, but like it's just little things.
It could be neglect, couldn't
Yeah,
it? You know,
yeah.
because we've grown up in a very imperfect society. You know, everyone's kind of wounded in this society, and our parents were doing the best they could at the time, but they may have had their own unmet needs that they were dealing with that automatically get pushed on to the children. So it's kind of just being compassionate about how that has come about and why it's come about.
I'm going to do a video soon on reflections as well, because another thing which has massively helped me on my journey is by becoming curious and asking why certain things, what, you know, around my emotions, and accepting and understanding them has actually made me look at my parents and understand why they acted the way that they did and where their stuff came from and what's playing out for them. So that's just another reflection of how doing the work like shows us other reflections in the external world, which is freaking amazing. It really is, when you can actually understand that there was nothing wrong with you, like you've spent a lifetime feeling like there's something seriously wrong with you, and it doesn't just unpick like that, but like there's a massive moment of revelation sort of where you just feel amazing when you realise that your parents treated you the way they did because of their stuff, not because it was you.
It's not about you, so it's that depersonalisation with it as well. You know, it's not you that's unlovable and fundamentally flawed. That is just something that you've taken on board, and it's
what happens when you don't deal with your stuff. You transfer it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like the same as in the relationship.
Yeah.
We just shift our shame onto each other. And then the final one would be validation and support.
Yeah, so just validating yourself for that journey, and you know, just supporting yourself. So thinking about, okay, so I have been triggered and everything now, and so what do I need to give to myself, you know, to enable myself to feel better about this? And it could be something practical, it could be some emotional space you need, it could be all sorts of things depending on what you find supportive in your life. Or
it could be as well like asking your partner for something. If you're in a conscious relationship and you're working with stuff together, then you can tell each other what's going to help you and what's going to make you feel better. But yeah, do this obviously in an authentic way, not in a manipulative way. So where it's okay to honestly ask for something that's going to help you to feel safe in the world and for you to grow and integrate these wounded parts. So yeah, just showing up for each other is really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I reckon we can put a wrap on this video now.
We could go on for ages otherwise.
We will, in other videos, yeah. But thanks for spending the time and watching this today. And look forward to catching up for another conversation soon. Speak in a week or two. Cheers. Bye-bye.